Okay, okay. I did not want to do this. I wanted to explore a magical little society where ghost stories are real and they're trapped in these walls of confinement. That way, humans can be protected from the boogeyman, which, as everyone knows, is this giant concrete toddler statue that snaps your neck when you're not looking. You know, the thing you don't want to find under your bed. But no! Stephanie Meyer decided she wanted to shit out another Twilight book because we don't have enough of those. Let's not waste any more time. I'm not going to bother reading her dumb pseudo emotional forewords, implying she actually loves her fans and appreciates them, telling us exactly what the changes were, which is, as you're going to see, precisely fucking nothing, and the quote that is misused from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Fantastic! So that is 7 pages we've managed to knock out already before we even begun! Only 463 to go. Without any further ado, Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined. And that is such a generic title for any kind of drama, but we'll let that slide. So is Twilight. Preface. I'd never given much thought to dying, though I'd had reason enough in the last few months. But even if I had, I wouldn't have imagined it like this. I stared across the long room, into the dark eyes of the hunter, and she looked pleasantly back at me. At least it was a good way to die, in the place of someone else, someone I loved, noble even. That ought to count for something. I knew that if I'd never gone to Forks, I wouldn't be about to die now. I couldn't bring myself to regret the decision. When life offers you a dream so far beyond any of your expectations, it's not reasonable to grieve when it comes to an end. The hunter smiled in a friendly way as she sauntered forward to kill me. That sounds a little familiar, like another book I've read before. Chapter 1, First Sight, January 17th, 2005. My mom drove me to the airport with the windows rolled down. Though it was January everywhere else, it was 75 degrees in Phoenix, and the sky was bright blue. I had on my favorite t-shirt, the Monty Python one with the swallows and the coconut that Mom gave me 2 Christmases ago. It didn't quite fit anymore, but that didn't matter. Monty Python references really didn't fit this book anyway. I mean, I wouldn't be needing t-shirts again soon. In the Olympic Peninsula of the Northwest Washington state, a small town named Forks exists under a near-constant cover of clouds. It rains on this insignificant town more than any other place in the United States of America, except for these places. It was from this town and its depressing gloom that my mom escaped with me when I was only a few months old. What? It was in this town that I had been forced to spend a month every summer until I was 14. That was the year I finally started making ultimatums. These past 3 summers, my dad, Charlie, vacationed with me in California for 2 weeks instead. Yet somehow, now I found myself exiled to Forks the rest of my high school education. A year and a half. 18 months. It felt like a prison sentence, even though those usually last at least twice as long as what I'm going through. 18 months, hard time, shut the fuck up. When I slammed the car door behind me, it made a sound like the clang of iron bars locking into Okay, just a tad melodramatic there. Just a tad? I have an overactive imagination, as my mom was fond of telling me. And of course, this was my choice. Self-imposed exile. Didn't make it any easier. I loved Phoenix. I loved the sun, and the dry heat, and the big sprawling city. And I loved living with my mom, where I was needed. You don't have to do this, my mom said to me, the last of 100 times, just before I got to the TSA post. My mom says we look so much alike that I could use her as a shaving. My mom says we look so much alike that I could use her for a shaving mirror. What? It's not entirely true, though I don't look much like my dad at all. Her chin is pointy and her lips full, which is not like me, but we do have exactly the same eyes. On her, they're childlike, so wide and pale blue, which makes her look like my sister rather than my mom. We get that all the time, though she pretends not to. She loves it. On me, the pale blue is less youthful and more unresolved. Staring at those wide, worried eyes so much like my own, I felt panicked. I've been taking care of my mom for my whole life. I mean, I'm sure there must have been a time, probably when I was still in diapers, that I wasn't in charge of the bills and paperwork and cooking and general level-headedness. But I couldn't remember it. Was leaving my mom to fend for herself really the right thing to do? It had seemed like it was during the months I'd struggled towards this decision, but it felt all kinds of wrong now. It's like hindsight is kind of a bitch, but what else can you do besides struggle with your decision that you can turn back on at this point? Woe is me, the stupid person that is not named yet. We're gonna get to that in this chapter, I hope. Of course, she had Phil these days, so the bills would probably get paid on time. There would be food in the fridge, gas in the car, and someone to call when she got lost. She didn't need me as much anymore. I want to go, I lied. I'd never been a good liar, but I've been saying this lie so much lately that it almost sounded convincing now. Can we just get to the story yet? Tell Charlie I said hi. I will. I'll see you soon, she promised. You can come home whenever you want. I'll come right back as soon as you need me. But I knew it would cost her to do that. Don't worry about me, I insisted. It'll be great. I love you, Mom. She hugged me tightly for a minute, and then I walked through the metal detectors, and she was gone. And with that, the plot could finally begin. It's a 3-hour flight from Phoenix to Seattle, another hour in a small plane up to Port Angeles, and then an hour drive back to Forks. Flying's never bothered me. The hour in the car with Charlie, though, I was a little worried about. Charlie had really been pretty decent about the whole thing. He seemed genuinely pleased that I was coming to live with him sort of permanently for the first time. He'd already gotten me registered for high school, and was going to help me get a car. But it would be awkward. Neither of us are what you'd call extroverted. Probably a necessary thing for living with my mother. But aside from that, what was there to say? It wasn't like I'd kept the way I felt about Forks a secret. When I landed in Port Angeles, it was raining. It wasn't snowman, just inevitable. I'd said my goodbyes to the sun. You realize you're still rotating around it like constantly, right? You just have to say goodbye to it during night. In fact, not even then, because of this fancy little thing called moonlight. Fuck you. Charlie was waiting with me in the cruiser. This I was expecting too. Charlie is a police chief swan to the good people of Forks. My primary motivation behind buying a car, despite my serious lack of funds, was that I hated driving around town in a car with red and blue lights on top. Nothing slows down traffic like a cop. Fuck! I have to finish this in another video because this is painful. Anyway, now you know why the haters are here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure that you actually practice your writing, or you'll end up like Stephanie Meyer.